Anyway, so without any further ado, so we've got a batch in order, and I've got a bit of a cough tonight. So I'm gonna, as soon as Baba gets started, I'm gonna nip out and get myself a drink and bring it back in. And so I'm going to go to Baba first, and then we'll go Keith Wolverhampton, Keith Lincolnshire, and Avita, and then I may see if I can rack my own brain to see if I can find something myself. Right, so Baba, over to you.
Okay.
Could you all mute, please? Yeah.
I'm sizing it up. I think I'm going to do one of my favorites. Start off the new year with one of my favorites, but I have so many favorites. Okay. I know what I'm going to do. Let me put my little snacky down. So this is one you've heard me say before, and you may have heard it recently. I was at a memorial for a dear friend of mine, and I told this at the memorial, and I think I'm going to tell it again. And this is about two best friends. In fact, I know you guys have heard it before, but you've eaten before, and if food is good, you eat it again. So the story is good, I'm telling it again. So, long ago, before there were pubs, oh my goodness, that is a long time ago, is when this story takes place. And I'm going to endeavor to make this interactive, so get ready to unmute, okay? So, there were two best friends. I mean, they were BFFs before BFFs was a thing. Best friends forever. And these two friends, they lived side by side. So when I do like this, I need you to say what I just said. So everybody unmute. So, and stay on mute for a moment. They were best friends and they lived side by side. How do they live?
Side by
Side by
side.
side.
And they built their homes.
Side by side.
And they cooked in the outdoor grill.
Side by side.
By side.
And they woke up early in the morning.
Side by side.
Separate houses, but side by side. Okay, you can mute for a moment. So they get up early in the morning, and muning is when it's way too early to say morning. They get up way early in the morning, and they get in their boats, and they would row. Well, actually, in the old days, they would use long poles, and they would push the boats out. But I'm a city kid. I don't know anything about that, so I'm going to say they rowed. They rowed their boats out into the middle of their favorite fishing place, and they took their nets and they cast them out side by side, and they sat and waited. How do they wait it? They waited. All right, I see your lips moving. I can read it. Side by side. Thank you. And they waited and they waited and waited, and toward the after several hours, they started pulling their nets back in, and they had lots of fishies, and they rowed back. They rowed back to the shore. How did they row back? They rowed back side by side.
Side by side.
When they got there, they counted all their fishies, and they kept some for themselves, and then they took the rest of them, and they went off to market. How did they go off to market?
Side
by side.
And when they got to market, they sold their fishes how?
Side by side.
That's right. And so that's what they did. At the end of the day, they came back and they decided to cook. And they cooked. Oh man, they had a delicious meal. They had fish. They had fufu. They had tubol. Oh man, they had a good time. Well, every morning they get up and they go fishing, and every morning they come back and they count their fish. And every day they go into town, they sell their fish. And then after they sold their fish, they come back and fix themselves a meal. Now, I want you to unmute because I want to ask a question. If you take food out of the refrigerator and don't put food back in the refrigerator, what happens to the refrigerator? It becomes what?
Empty.
Thank you. And that's what happened. Well, not their refrigerator, but their favorite fishing spot became empty. In fact, one day they only caught one fish. One fish, just one fish. And when they rowed back, they looked at the one fish. And by the way, these best friends, their name was you and me. And you looked at the one fish they caught, and you said, I will take the body. I messed up. You said you will get the head and me will get the body. But you said, that's not fair. And me
That's
said,
not fair.
that's right. And he said, did you catch a fish? Everybody unmute and go, no.
No, I didn't get the head.
No.
No.
So stay unmuted. So me said, me get the body, you get the head.
No, I want the
But
body.
you said,
I
that's
want the
not
body.
fair.
Fair.
That's not fair.
Yeah, your
Not
line is that's
fair.
not fair. Okay. So this went back and forth, and they started arguing. They had never argued in all their life. They had never argued before. They made so much more that the village people, not the band, the people that lived in the village people came to find out what was going on, and they heard them arguing back and forth. Did you catch a fish? No. Then me get the body, you get the head. But that's not fair. And so finally they sent for the village wise man. Not the village idiot, the village wise man. Well, his name was Uswe. And Uswe came and he heard them arguing back and forth. But that's not fair. Did you catch a fish? No. Then you get the head and me get the body. But that's not fair. So
not
Uswe said, I can solve this if you swear to abide by my decision. And so they said, yes, yeah, we'll do that. So Uswe, he thought, and he stroked his white beard because I have one. And he thought, and then he said, you get the head, me get the tail, Uswe get the body. Everybody unmute and go, that's not fair.
That's not fair.
That's not fair.
Oh no, Baden's here. That's not fair. But anyhow, they all said that's not fair. And Uswe said, you agreed to abide by my decision. And my decision is, you get the head, me get the tail, Uswe get the body. They were not happy. But after a while they thought, and even Baden got it, and Baden go, oh, unmute Baden, go, oh.
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 There are a lot of Badens around.
Oh.
All right, go back to mute. Because in that instant, everybody understood in that instant what was going on. You see, there are many things that you can do and do them well. And there are many things that me can do and do them well. But when you and me become us and we, there is nothing we cannot do when we work together. And that is the lesson of this story. Asante.
Asante. The world is obviously a better place when two people working in harmony together. Absolutely. And there's an
Yes.
old story that comes from the hills of Wales. And it said back in the day, there were beings running around up in Snowdonia, whatever they call it nowadays, and they had 2 heads, 4 arms, and 4 legs. And the lightning came and split them in half. And so now there's 1 head and 2 arms and 2 legs, and 1 head, 2 arms, and 2 legs. And sometimes they get together and get married or live together in love, and they become one person again. And when that happens, life is better for everybody. Okay, that's a really old bit of there's old wives' tales, but these old wives knew a bit sometimes. They really did, and they got it exactly right. So going back to my list, we've got a Keith W. So that's a Keith from Wolverhampton, who's he's looking a bit fragile because he's been away for a week drinking, I think, is what he's been doing. So we won't ask him to let on. No, that's all.
Absolutely. Great New Year away with the crowd. Excuse me. But I have a tale from long ago. And the tale is about an old woman who lived in a little white cottage with her son. And they fell on hard times. And she racked her brains for how they were to survive. Had very little food. They grew themselves, mostly vegetables and herbs and never any meat. And she wanted the best for her son, as every mother does. And then she had a plan. She had a plan. She decided to set about the rumour that she was a soothsayer, that she could take a pack of cards and lay them out, and whatever order came up would tell her client all sorts of things about their lives and their future. Now, in those days, and probably today, people are superstitious and they like to believe in soothsayers. And the local community were no different to any other. But to reinforce the idea, she sent her son out to steal 3 horses from 3 different farms. And he hid them in the woods for one night. So there was straw and droppings and the remnants of the food they'd been given. And then he moved them outside the woodland to a hollow and tethered them safely. Now the 3 farmers got together and said, "We've lost a horse, I've lost a horse, I've lost a horse. But we don't know where to look." And one said, "Well, my wife told me that there is an old woman in a little white cottage who is said to be a soothsayer, and she can lay out the cards and tell us things about the future. Is it worth crossing her palm with silver to find our horses?" And they thought this was a good idea, and they rode out to the cottage, and the old woman came to the door, bent herself over, exaggerated her age, coughed a little, and said, "I think I might help." And on the kitchen table, she laid out the cards and scratched her chin and mumbled to herself and said, there is a track from this cottage through the woods, and I think you will find your horses just beyond the clearing in the wood that you come to." And they each gave her a coin. And they set off, and they found the straw and the droppings and the remnants of food that their horses had been fed on. But they were no longer there. So they went back and said, "Well, you were right, Granny. Granny, you were right. The horses had been there, but they're no longer there." She said, feigning deep thought, she laid out her cards again and said, spreading her hands over them, "They have moved. They have moved to the hollow." "The hollow," they said, "the hollow, the clearing you came to. Follow the track to the right, and you will find a hollow, and there you will find your horses safe and sound." And she spoke no more. She didn't want to over-exaggerate and sound fraudulent. And they gave her some more coin and set off, and sure enough, there were their horses in the hollow, tethered and fed. And they took them back to their farms, and her fame spread around the area. "Soothsayer, did you hear? Farmers lost their horses, stolen. The thieves hid them in a hollow. They hid them in the woods first, and then they thought better of it, and they hid them in a hollow, and she knew all this just by laying out her cards. And people came to her with a penny or 2 pennies. And as you know, in a community that size, everyone knows everyone else, and everyone knows everything about everyone else. And so it wasn't hard for her to tell people that their cousin's son was having a baby, or someone was about to be wed. "I hear wedding bells." And they go, "Oh, yes, you're right. My nephew is getting married." And everyone saw this as fortune telling. But her fame spread to the local manor. And the local lord was a brute of a man. He ran the whole country area with a fist of iron. Everyone was frightened of him. And in his huge castle-like manor house, his servants were terrified of him too. So the upheaval when he found that a wooden cask full of gold coins had gone missing sent vibrations through the whole building. He ranted, he raved, he made threats of what he would do to the culprits. But no one had any idea who the culprits were. But a parlour maid, tentatively put up her hand and said, in the woods, on the corner in the woods, there is a white cottage, and the woman there is a soothsayer. She has been known to tell people where lost things are to be found. Without another word, he sent 2 men in a carriage to fetch her. Not a request, you understand, just fetch her. And they marched into her house, and they took her into the carriage, and she was terrified. And the carriage set off along this rutted road, clanking and a rattling, and the horses' hooves and the wooden heels. And she sat in the back thinking, oh no, if it hadn't been for my empty belly and no money, I wouldn't be in this state. And she carried on. But one of the men in the front said to his friend, did you hear what she said? He said, what do you mean hear what she said? The great clattering noise. She said, it's Norman and Barry. It's us. She knows it's us who took the casket. He said, what do you mean? No, you're hearing things. And they both went along, terrified looks on their faces. And sure enough, later she said it again. Oh no, if it hadn't been for my empty belly and no money. He said, hear that? I'm Barry, you're Norman. She knows it's us. What's going to happen when we get there? And they stopped the carriage. The old woman was frightened, for they were only halfway there, and the carriage door opened, and then she saw these 2 men, almost kneeling and bowing in front of her, said, Granny, Granny, we don't know how you knew it was us that took the casket of gold coins, but please spare us. It was temptation. We've never stolen anything in our lives, and there it was. And we took the coins, and now you know it's us. We heard you saying Norman and Barry over and over again. And she calmed down, for she understood the misunderstanding. Quiet, she said. Where have you hidden the casket? Oh, it's under the bridge by the mill, for it's dark down there and there are loose stones and there's almost a cave under there where you can take me to your master, she said. But please don't say, fear not. She felt almost regal now, regal with relief. And they carried on in silence. And they arrived in the courtyard, and she stepped out of the carriage, and the servants came forward, and they took her into a huge hall, and a table laid out with food like of which she had never seen before. And the Lord came in, and he sat at one end of the table and said, thank you so much for coming to help me find the villain who stole my casket and return it to me. And they ate and drank wine. She had never drunk wine before, and it made her even more confident as she was sat down when the table was cleared, and she took her cards out and she laid them in a row, and she looked at them, and everyone watched. All the servants were lined up, and the Lord's family, and they watched aghast as she looked at the cards and scrubbed scratched her chin and mumbled to herself. And Norman and Barry are on the end, terrified. But she started to speak and said, I see a wheel. I see a wheel that is too big for a cart. They all start to mumble. Oh, my big wheel, where's the big wheel? Enough, shouts the Lord. Quiet. I see a wheel. I see running water. I see a mill. They gasp. And the mill has a stone bridge. And under the stone bridge, and she looks at the cards again, scratches her chin and says, under the stone bridge, there are loose bricks, almost a cave. And in that dark place is a box. That is all I know. The culprit, shouts the Lord. Can you see the culprits for me to hang tomorrow morning? Norman and Barry at the end are beginning to sweat. I see shadowy figures, she said. I see 3 shadowy figures. And immediately they relax. She is not going to point them out. Enough, said the Lord. And ironically, he shouts at Norman and Barry, fetch the carriage, go to the mill, find my casket. And off they go. Off they go, almost sick with relief. And they retrieve the casket. Of course they do. They're the ones who know where it is. And they bring it back and it's placed on the table. And again, the whole family, everyone is watching as it's opened up. And there inside, the gold coins untouched. He has not lost one. And he's delighted. And he takes a leather pouch and he fills it with 10 gold coins as a reward. And she sleeps in a soft feather bed. And in the morning, Norman and Barry drive her back to her cottage. And when they leave her there, they both give her a gift as well for saving them. And now she is prosperous, for she used her gold coins well, buying extra land around her cottage, planting vegetables, a few cows, sheep and a pig. And she and her son were prosperous and their stomachs never went empty. And local folk said, do you remember? Do you remember she used to be a soothsayer? But it stopped when she came into some money. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Keith. That's lovely. Absolutely great. So we're going to go to Keith from Lincolnshire, where it looked like it's snowy over there. It's snowy over here a bit, but it is January. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Just 1 second. Where's that? Right. Well, I live on a small farm. I've lived there all my life. It was originally my mum and dad, they ran the farm and lived in this cottage where I live now. And my dad, he raised pigs and chickens. He had a small field across the road. There's a main road just in front of the cottage. And every morning he would walk across the road and through the woods into the field where which I still own actually, and down beside of a longwood for next door. And about halfway down the field side, there was a chicken hut. And every morning, Dad would go down there and let the chickens out and feed them. And then towards the end of the day, he would go through the woods and down the field side to the chicken hut and lock them up, shut them up. Well, it was one winter's day, and he'd gone out as normal, and he was about to go back in the late afternoon to shut them up. And I said to Dad, "Can I come with you?" He said, "Oh yes, come on, son." And so we walked across the road and through the woods and down the field side, and there'd been some snow, and there'd been a bit of a wind, and the snow got quite deep, and I was really struggling to keep up with Dad. And he said to me, "Well, walk in my footsteps, walk in the snow where I have trod." And so I did that. Now he is a bigger stride than me, but I was able to. I was only about maybe 8 or 9, so I had to jump from one footpath to another, and eventually he sort of reduced his pace so I could walk along. Then we went across to the chicken hut, and we shut the chickens up, and we returned by the same way through the snow, me walking in my father's footsteps. Now, a long time ago in Bohemia, there was a king. And it was just the day after Christmas, it's St. Stephen's Day. And they'd had a wonderful meal, he and his guests and all his court. And he was feeling rather pleased with himself. He had lots to drink and lots of food and just warm beside the fire. And he looked out from his castle through the window, and he saw something strange in the snow, because it was snowing and blowing. And he realized it was a man. And he said to his servant, the page, he said, "Well, who is that?" And the page said, "Oh, it's old Vladimir. He's collecting wood for his fire." And he lives a good way away down through there, about I don't know, about a mile away, at the foot of a big mountain. Well, the king, he was so happy with himself and his full belly, and he's been drinking, and he was happy and he was warm. But his heart went out to this old man that was collecting firewood in the snow. And so he said to his servant, the page, "Come on, we'll take some food, we'll take some wine, and we'll take some logs, and we'll take them to Vladimir's house." And the page said, "Oh, we can't do that. So you've got all these guests here, they're still here, and they're still enjoying themselves." And the king said, "Never mind them, they can look after themselves. We will go and take some food and some wine and some logs to Vladimir's house." And so they picked up lots of the food and the wine and the logs, and they set off from the castle and down on the way to Vladimir's house. But the snow had got the snow was quite deep, and the wind was blowing, and the king was carrying all this food and this wine, and following him was the page carrying lots of wood. But the page was struggling. He said, "Sire, sire, sire, I can't keep up with you. I can't keep with the snow is so deep. I can't keep up." And the king thought to himself, "Well, perhaps I could send the page back." But he was concerned about Vladimir and wanted to take him some food and some wine and some logs. And so the king turned to his page and said, "Walk in my footsteps and follow me." And the page did that. And to his amazement, his feet became warm as he walked in the king's footsteps. And they came to Vladimir's cottage, knocked on the door, and Vladimir opened the door and bowed and said, "Your Majesty." He was astounded that the king was there. And the king was there with lots of food and wine and logs. And Vladimir was amazed that he was not only visited by the king, but was being given all these gifts. And the king smiled and said, "Merry Christmas." And so King Wenceslas went back to his cottage through the snow, followed by the page. That's the story of King Wenceslas. And the song that follows on from that is Good King Wenceslas looked out on the feast of Stephen, when the snow lay round about, deep and crisp and even. Brightly shone the moon that night, though the frost was cruel, when a poor man came in sight, gathering winter fuel. Hither, page, and stand by me, if thou knowest it, telling yonder peasant who is he, where and what his dwelling. Sire, he lives a good league hence, underneath the mountain, right against the forest fence, by St. Agnes fountain. Bring me flesh, bring me wine, bring me pine logs hither. Thou and I will see him dine, when we bear them thither. Page and monarch, forth they went together, through the rude wind's wild lament, and the bitter weather. Sire, the night is darker now, and the wind blows stronger. Fails my heart, I know not how, I can go no longer. Mark my footsteps, good my page, tread thou in them boldly. Thou shalt find the winter's rage, freeze thy blood less coldly. In his master's footsteps he trod, where the snow lay dinted. Heat was in the very sod, which the saint had printed. Therefore, Christian men, be sure, wealth or rank possessing, ye who now will bless the poor, shall yourselves find blessing.
Keith, that was lovely. I love the start of that story about you and your father. But the one thing I didn't hear, or maybe I'm just getting a bit old in dementia nowadays, is the city it happened in.
Well, it was the King of Bohemia. That was the the king is in question. So there's no city, but it was just all I know. It's the King of Bohemia.
King of Bohemia. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
That's one of my favourite carols. It's one I play myself and all sorts of things. It really makes it every Christmas, beginning of December. I take it out and learn it again and play it. I actually think it's a lovely carol. I really do.
Yeah.
Right, well done, my friend. Well done, well done.
Thank you.
So, so now we're going to go to Evita, and then Baden and Sue, you came afterwards. So, Baden and Sue, you put your hands up if you're doing one.
Not been too great this last since Boxing Day really, so I'm just kind of listening to that. But I do have a very short parable.
That would be great. We'll do a parable afterwards, and if you haven't been great, then I'm afraid you're in very good company because I've had we call it the Shropshire lurgy sometimes, and it's really knocked me back a bit. So I'm trying not to breathe on the TV screen so you get it all and everything else. So Sue, are you doing one today from South Africa? Great. So we'll go Evita, Baden, a small parable, then Sue. So Evita, so you're sat in Switzerland, are you?
I am until in a few days, I will be somewhere else, as you all know. Now,
all we're going to say is the word envy comes to mind. How long are you going to be in Marrakesh for?
7 weeks.
7 weeks in Marrakesh. The only thing that I'm going to say is that I know you're going to be so lonely that I think Bain and I are going to come and visit you just to liven yourself. Your social life up a bit. Right? Okay. We'll manage to take you off for a cup of tea somewhere.
I'm going to check the bus routes to see how I can get there.
That would be really lovely to have a mini festival. Now, my dear friends, I'm glad Sue is here to be witness. My dear friends, tonight is not going to be an original story, and I'm going to slightly take you out of your Christmas mood, if that's fine. So, see my halo? Quite accidental, but I will get rid of it now. Now, fellas. Jetzt zwemmer jödele, 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 jetzt zwemmer jödele, lustig sie. I want to ask you something, guys. Have you ever gambled? You can unmute or you can, okay, thumbs down. Oh, a little bit. Yeah.
A little bit.
Well, you see, we are here in the center of Switzerland, and they have stories. So long time before the devil went to Georgia, he actually roamed the mountains here. And there was a man. His name was Uri Spiegel, which basically means Uri Mirror. Don't ask me how he came by that name. And at some stage, he was a gambling man and all kinds of ladies' man and so on and so on. And the villagers all knew, and the people in the valley, he's always lucky. I wonder why. Well, you and I, we know why. Uri was so lucky. He had made a deal with the Horned One. And so his luck held out for a long time. Then one day the devil came knocking at his door and saying, Uri Spiegel, the time has come. Now you must all know that Uri was a fairly lucky man, a gambling man, but he's also super smart. So he said, fair enough, a deal is a deal, but let me give you, a little challenge. If you win the challenge, I will freely come as promised. The devil laughed. A challenge for me. All right, go right ahead. So Uri gave him some wool from a black sheep, and he says, now go forth and wash this black sheep's wool until it is white. Well, off went the devil down to the river, to a rock face. And he rubbed and he washed and he washed and he rubbed and he rubbed and he washed. He nearly rubbed that rock right through. And the devil said, well, it was clean. It was still black. Well, so Uri had another year to live. This went back and forth, trick after trick. One year, the devil was there. Come on, Uri. I've had enough of your tricks. It's time to go. Oh, come on, devil me, mate. How about, see that pig over there? If you are able to shear the wool off that pig, I shall freely come with you. A deal is a deal. Now, as you all know, the devil likes a challenge. So he grabbed that pig and tried to shear it. The pig squealed and carried on. Such a noise made he that the devil let him go, and he said, such a noise, ear-splitting noise, and there really isn't much wool on a pig. See you next year, Uri. See you, devil, he said. Next year came. What is it this year? It was winter. Well, devil, come on. You can do anything. Sure can. Give me that challenge. Today's the day. Well, if you can make a fire from icicles, I shall freely come with you, because a deal is a deal. So there was the devil breaking off these beautiful crystally icicles, and he fussed about. He went left, he went right, he fussed, he rubbed. And guess what, my friends? He actually got it to smoke, but it never lit. It smoked all right, but Uri, I really don't like your games. See you next year. Well, another year came. The devil knocked on the door, and there was Uri already waiting and grinning. And the devil said, stop grinning. I've been thinking, I don't think you can trick me again. Well, we'll see. Now, in Switzerland, they have wooden troughs. And those troughs are so old that occasionally they have a hole in them. It's called a barn hole, not a barn as in a shed, but they are in a shed. He says, if you can pull a fart out of the barn hole and tie it into a bow, I shall freely come with you, for a deal is a deal. And quickly Uri climbed into the trough. The devil was fidgeting about that hole, fidgeting back and forth and looking and fidgeting. Uri let one rip. But the devil, my dears, he could not tie a bow into that fart. He said, I heard it, I smelt it, but that was that. And off went the devil, quite vexed by now. And he says, I'm not going to do this much longer. The year he was asked to make a bee, he fidgeted about, and when he had actually fashioned a little insect and said fly, it turned into a fly. Now that was it. The devil was fuming. He said, Uri, I don't think this is fair. You have played so many tricks on me, so many challenges. Now I am setting the challenge. Inside, Uri was trembling. Oh, bother. But fair is fair, for Uri was a gambling man, but he was fair. What is the challenge, devil? If I don't succeed, I shall come with you freely, for a deal is a deal. Ha! Said the devil. If you, Uri, show me an animal that I, the devil, has never seen before. Yeah, said Uri, I know what you mean. Surely, you want to see an animal you've never seen before? Yep. If you can't find one, you're coming with me. I've had enough. I've had a gutful. So with trembling heart, Uri went home, scratching his head and thinking. And there was Berta, his beautiful wife. Get undressed, wife, he said. What do you mean, get undressed? Get naked, dear. It's my life we're talking about. So she got undressed. He painted her whole body from head to toe with honey. He took her out to the chook shed and he rolled her in the feathers. And then he brought her. Devil was at the door, rubbing his hands. It smelled of sulphur, my friends. Uri opened the door with much bravado. He led out the animal. Have you ever seen this animal before? He said cockily to the devil. The devil walked around Berta. He looked her up, he looked her down, he turned her this way and that. And he says, by Jove, No, never seen an animal with the others between its front legs. Nope, I've never seen her before. You win again. And the devil left. Now I could go on for hours and hours, and eventually Uri did have to go back with the devil. But the devil, I know how it was done. Hoppali hoppali hoo ali ho, hoo ali hoo ali hoo ali ho, hoppali hoppali hoo ali ho, hoo ali hoo ali ho. Be careful if you sell your soul to the devil. Be smart, my friends.
Vita, that was lovely. It's a lovely story, well told. I love it. It's really good. I love to hear the different ways that people do it. It's one of the things I do this for every time I sit down here, is to someone else's version of a story like that. It's a lovely story, well told. I'm looking forward to being in your company. So we're going to go to Baden, who's not feeling very well. I like to say that you look okay, but you do look like shit, to be fair. Baden. But I'm going to
Hey,
cheer him
only
up.
I can say that about Baden.
No, I only say it because it's the truth tonight. He doesn't normally look as bad as this. What are you talking about? But I'm going to cheer him up for a second, because I'm just going to retell everybody that his reputation has gone before him to the people who are now running Festival at the Edge, and they've booked him to be in Bromyard in July, where he's going to be joined, and I've just found out today, by a very good old and very good friend of mine called Zanti Gresham, who's one of the finest storytellers I know. And she's also a lovely person and a fine lady. And whether she's back over here on the Welsh Marsh, I will be looking forward to meeting up with her. But you're going to be in fine company, Baden, and you're going to have to be on your best performance, you're on your best behaviour, just because Grant Zanti is going to be there, because Her standards are extremely high.
She's a class act, and she once got me and Dave Tongue to pose in blue and silver shoulder length wigs. I'm really not going to say any more about that. It
I
was
don't
not
want
my
to know any
coldest-
more
No,
about that.
you don't. You don't.
I don't. I'd just like to point out she's a very well respected married lady, and she probably doesn't want to talk about you and Dave Tongue in blue tigs very much either. But we won't go into that.
It cost us a fortune to gather all the photographs and get rid of them. Trust me.
I bet it
Anyway.
did. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to go to
Right.
Baden.
A quick parable. I worked at this place once with 4 other guys. Anybody, everybody, somebody, and nobody. And we were set a task by the manager. And it was actually quite a simple task that realistically anybody could do. Everybody waited for somebody to step up and do it. But nothing happened. So in the end, nothing got done. And when the manager came back, he discovered that nobody had done what everybody expected somebody was going to do, and which really anybody might have done. Now make of that what you will. That's my story. You're muted, Mike. You're muted.
So the devil came down one day and he gathered up all the people in Shropshire and he put them in a corner in hell. And he put them next door to Cheshire and to Herefordshire and Paris and everything else. And he looked over and one of them said, "Look, over there in Shropshire, one of them's trying to get out." And the devil said, "No," he said, "don't worry about Shropshire. Everybody else will pull him back in." And they say that about Shropshire sometimes. Right. I'm going to go to Sue in South Africa, where hopefully it's not snowing. Hopefully it's the middle of the summer and you're wearing shorts and it's really hot and you have to wear suntan lotion and all that kind of stuff.
It's cold here, Mike. We haven't had summer so far.
Oh, haven't you?
No, we had a sunny day on Christmas Day, and the rest of the time, every day, well, you can see me, I'm wearing warm things.
Yeah.
It's meant to be summer, but it's been a miserable summer so far. We're grateful for the rain, but the weather's been miserable.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry to hear that.
So we are in cahoots with you guys because it's really cold, I believe, and miserable.
It's cold here, though. Yes.
Yeah, you need lots of sunshine. I'll send you some. How's that?
Well,
We're visible in Washington, D.C., but for different reasons.
Yeah, no, we're having really nice days, Sue. It's the temperature's only struggling to get over freezing, but the skies are bright blue and the sun is out. It's the midwinter skies, we call it sometimes. So the sun is very low in the sky and it's very weak and all that. But it's lovely. The scenery it's all white across the hills and everything else, frosted and everything. It is beautiful. It's just cold. Yeah. Okay.
Well, the earth needs to rest, so maybe it's resting a bit longer than it should, but it does need to rest. So, yeah.
It's been a bit windy here, but sunny and cold. But it was so windy. I don't know if you guys will get this. It was so windy. I thought the wind thought it was in Chicago. For those that don't know, Chicago is known as the Windy City.
Yeah.
So it's so cold over here, Baba, that it's called a lazy wind. It doesn't go around you; it goes through you. Okay, that's what we say.
Ooh. But are your icicles wearing coats?
And now we know what's happened to Baba C's hair.
Yeah.
I'm going to allow you that one, Baden.
Baden, I keep on telling him not to polish the top of his bald head because the light shines up a bit.
Oh, no. That's what I polish it for that reason. Real quick. So I'm in the middle of doing a workshop, and I have this one kid. You always have this one kid that's trying to act up. And the workshop, the way it was set up, was a whole battery of windows on one wall. And I had on my kufi. I said, don't make me take this kufi off and lower my head so the sun will shine off my head and blind you. The whole room got quiet. Didn't have a problem for the rest of the day. So yes, my bald head is a good reflection on me.
Yeah, well, someone did tell him, Sue, that if he polished his head and pointed at the sun would reflect off and it would look like a halo. But it hasn't worked yet. Okay.
Oh, I have a halo. It's just invisible.
Anyway, back to Sue. Sue, back to you. Okay. I'll turn myself off.
Everyone, just a happy new year, first of all. I hope it's a great year for all of you, storytelling wise and life wise and health wise and everything. So I'm going to tell you a story that was written by Herman Charles Bosman. If you ever get hold of his short stories, you'll find them delightful. He used satire so expertly. And his stories are really worth reading. This one's called Backersdal Marathon. So Skalk Lawrence, the teller of these stories, said that they were in church in Backersdal one day. And you know, in the normal church ceremonies, the minister would read from the Bible and then say a prayer, and then people would be asked to sing a hymn. But what they didn't know with their minister, their dominee, is that he would sometimes go into a trance. So on this particular occasion, after they did their prayer, the dominee, as he was nodding forward onto the pulpit, said, "We will now sing hymn 119." And down with his head in a trance. But nobody in the congregation knew this. And they opened their hymn books to start singing. And then they were sort of struck by a bit of panic. Because as you all know, hymn or Psalm 119 has 176 verses. Okay. But the congregation, hardy and loyal to their minister, started singing, and they sang and they sang, and they looked at the minister and he didn't say anything. He was just standing like that. And then by the time they got to the end of verse 8, everybody got sort of slightly excited because, you know, the Psalm 119 has 176 verses, but they all sort of divided into 8 verses, and then there's the word pause. So when they got to the end of the 8th verse, everybody sort of started cheering up a little bit and got a little bit excited and looked towards the dominee, and the organist played a little bit faster. But guess what? When they got to the end of verse 8, there was Germany, minister standing like this. Now the elders in this community, in this church, were heroes during this event because they soon realized that the congregation needed a lot of moral support. So they all got up out of their chairs and started tippy-toeing through the congregation and going, "Yeah, keep it up, keep on singing, keep on singing." The congregation plowed ahead and they sang and they sang. And then when they got to verse 35, they realized that there was a problem because the organist started signaling his little black bottle to show that he had run out of medication and that he needed more medication. So Elder Visagie went up to the organist and took his little black bottle and tiptoed past everybody into the vestry where the Holy Communion wine was kept. And about 2 verses later, he tiptoed back with a little black bottle under his coat, and he gave it to the organist, who nodded and carried on playing. By the time they got to verse 45, the organist was in trouble again and signaled, "Need more medicine, need more medicine." And then the elder, with 2 of the deacons, tiptoed past the people into the vestry to go and get more medicine for the organist. When they came back, they actually didn't only tiptoed, they tripped a little bit and went to sit down. By the time they got to verse 60, there was nearly a riot, because the poor caretaker of the church and his helper, who had to turn the little wheel to keep the organ wind going, were so exhausted that they could hardly continue. So Elder Cronje, on tippy toes, also walked out of the church. Now, he was the chief of police, and he was also the goalkeeper, the jailer. So he went to the jail and he came back with 3 strong criminals and put them behind the organ. And they then carried on this very difficult task of keeping the organ going. And this went on for many, many, many hours, until eventually they came to verse 176. By then, most of the elders and deacons were sort of in a slumber and contemplating life rather deeply with very red cheeks. But when they got to verse 76, the whole congregation just stood up and sang, "Amen." And with that, the dominee sort of shook his head, looked around a bit, came out of his trance, saw that it was dark outside, and everybody in the congregation realized, oh, he must be thinking that it is now the evening sermon. Because what did he do? Put his arms on the pulpit, leaned forward, and as his head nodded down, he said, "Brothers and sisters, we will now sing Psalm 119. The end.
So that was lovely. Thank you ever so much. I've got a couple of stories a bit like that. Not that one in any way at all. There's one about a song, Lord George Knew My Father, and 1, 2 like that. It's absolutely lovely to hear that. That really, really finished us off beautifully this evening. Thank you very much. So I'm going to say thank you now. We've got a few things ongoing on the World Storytelling Cafe's website. There's always something on a Friday evening. Through January, there's Nakarika, who's going to do her personal story swaps again, as she always does.
Oh, lovely.
And the magic carpet keeps flying as we do. We'll be here in a fortnight's time, and in a month's time or 4 weeks' time, we will be doing this from Marrakesh, where Evita and I will be sat there on the Sunday evening there, looking forward to that. So I'm going to finish up tonight, and thank you for everybody who's here. Keith, I will see you tomorrow night in the Pottery, I hope. And I'm looking forward to being in all of your company at some point this year. Now, Sue and Baba, at the moment, that's on a wish list. But sometimes if you don't dream, then the dream can't come true. But I would love to meet you both personally this year at some point. And if not, then the year after. So, thank you very much. Go on.
Question. So when you do it from Marrakesh, what's the time difference?
No, it's exactly the same. It's UK time. It's exactly the same. So it'll be
Okay.
based on UK time. And if there's a change to be made, the change will be made in Marrakesh. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Dates for Gawier, please, Mike. When you got them.
9th.
Not now,
No.
but whenever you got them.
No, 9th, 10th, 11th. I think it's the second weekend in October, baby.
Okay.
Start.
And can I share one thing very quickly, which is going to make
Absolutely.
you all
you can.
laugh? It makes me laugh because I can't say it with a straight face. I've never heard of these people, but I know Red Phoenix is involved because she contacted me. There's something called the Bardic Trials in Stonehenge Stratford. Apparently, it goes on, been going for a while. And it's a combination spoken word, storytelling, singer-songwriting, drama. And they have this big final, and every year they invite a storyteller to come and do a set. And they've invited me. And apparently, the reason they've invited me, right? Sorry, I should take this much more seriously than I do, is because I am, quote, a shining example of the bardic arts. I mean, who knew?
Right. There's only one thing I think you need to check. Actually, is how they spell Bardic. But we won't Baden, I can't think of a more apt compliment. I really can't.
Thank
and I
you.
think that's a
Thank
wonderful thing, and I would have that put on your publicity instantly. Okay.
That's going on my gravestone, mate.
I won't tell you what's going on my gravestone, but it could be along the lines as I told you I was ill, but that is an old joke.
Oh,
Well,
that's
good
brilliant.
people and Baden,
Good to see you all,
this has
man.
been great.
Yeah, as always. Michael.
Right, I'll see you all in 2 weeks' time. Keep an eye on the magic carpet so you see what's going on and everything else. Thank you all very much.
Thanks,
for being here
Waleed.
and doing this.
Love you. See you all
Waleed,
Thanks,
soon.
Waleed, for flying the magic
Bye.
carpet.
Okay, bye-bye.
See you
Bye-bye.
soon, Waleed.
All right,
Looking
everyone take
forward
care.
to it.
Right,
Don't do
signing
anything I
off.
wouldn't
Bye-bye,
do, and if you
bye-bye.
do, make sure the cameras are off. Baden, you just be you.
Stay well, my brother.
You too.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Evita!
Good
I see the
night,
snowman behind
guys.
you, the snow person. All right, everybody.
It's a snow
Good night,
person
hun.
called Soleil.
Yes.
Bye, all.
Take care.
Bye. Get better, Baden.